You're listening to The Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. In short, we depropagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary. That is opinion, yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. Again, I say that because it's Friday, and that's an important day in all of our lives. It is the 17th day of November. Time for us to start our broadcast with today's front page, a digest of news that happened since yesterday's broadcast and while we were asleep. The Israeli-Hamas war continues to lead the news. Live updates from USA Today. The body of an Israeli abducted in the Hamas brutal rampage has been found near the Gaza hospital, reads the headline. The body of one of approximately 240 people kidnapped in Israel during the October 7th Hamas rampage was recovered in a building near Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital, this according to the Israeli military. Yehudit Weiss was abducted from the Be'eri kibbutz, Israel, on the Platform X, Israel said on the Platform X, when Hamas launched the brutal attack that killed about 1,200 people and provoked Israel's reprisals seeking to dislodge the militant group from Gaza. No cause of Weiss's death was given. She was 65. Her husband, Shmulik Weiss, was killed in the Hamas assault. Israeli Defense Forces tweeted that Weiss's cadaver was identified by forensic experts. Her family was notified. In the same building her body was discovered, Israeli troops also found military equipment and weapons that included rocket-propelled grenades. The IDF has shown a purported Hamas weapons cache, this under the Al-Shifa hospital. The Israeli Defense Force released videos and video clips, that's photos and video clips, showing what it described as Hamas terror infrastructure inside the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City, including an operational tunnel shaft, weapons, and ammunition. The IDF said its troops were continuing to conduct targeted activity at the hospital, Gaza's largest health facility, which Israeli officials say Hamas has been using for military purposes in violation of international law. Among the findings, the IDF said a booby-trapped vehicle that was prepared for the October 7th massacre was discovered, including a large amount of weapons and ammunition inside it. Earlier, a BBC News team was brought by Israeli troops on Wednesday night into Al-Shifa hospital, where the forces showed the CBS News partner 15 guns, grenades, military booklets, and a map with entrances and exits to the hospital. Quote, we uncovered a lot of computers and other equipment which shed light on the current situation, hopefully regarding hostages as well, unquote. This from IDF spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus telling the BBC. He said the computers contained images of hostages from Israel taken in Gaza after they were kidnapped. Israel plans to play a video from the Hamas rampage into Israel for UN envoys in New York next week as the isolated Middle East country attempts to rally support for its war in Gaza. Israeli ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, said yesterday that he invited ambassadors, UN officials, and representatives of the Jewish community in New York to view, quote, the horrors of the massacre, unquote, that was committed by Hamas. The UN has not yet condemned Hamas, Erdogan said in a statement. I hope that following the screening of the film, some of the ambassadors and UN officials will understand what moral distortion they are complicit in. A fuel shortage has shut down communications across Gaza. Quote, "Dear people in our beloved homeland, we regret to announce a complete interruption of communications services, fixed, cellular, and internet in the Gaza Strip." This according to a Palestinian spokesperson on social media. The company said it had been unable to obtain fuel and the backup energy sources to operate the network had been exhausted. Absent means of communication, humanitarian aid deliveries will not take place today, said the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, known as the UNWRA. The agency said almost every person in Gaza lacks enough food, and more than 2 out of every 3 don't have clean drinking water. Philip Lazzarini, the agency's commissioner general, confirmed the, quote, total communications blackout, unquote, at a press conference in Geneva, according to the Times of Israel. Lazzarini has been warning for days the entire aid mission would soon grind to a halt unless Israel eased its blockade and allowed more fuel into Gaza. Israel partially lifted the embargo this week. Palestinian officials say the amount of available fuel is not nearly enough. A U.S. Palestinian group has doxed New York City sites associated with genocide, they say. This from the New York Post. A UN pro-Palestinian activist group shared a frightening map of New York City newsrooms, businesses, and landmark buildings and called for direct action to globalize Intifada. In addition to news buildings, Within Our Lifetime, which is the name of the group, describes itself as a Palestinian-led community organization, called for followers to target the offices of technology companies. Quote, "Each of the locations on this map reflects the location of an office of an enemy of both the Palestinian people and colonized people all over the world. Today and beyond, these locations will be sites for popular mobilization in defense of our people," said the Wednesday Night Post. Quote, "May this map serve as a call for every struggle to act in their own interest. As we do so, we uplift one another's struggles and free Palestine from the river to the sea." It continued, repeating the Palestine Liberation Organization mantra adopted by Hamas that calls for the eradication of Israel. The Department of Education is probing campuses over anti-Semitism and Islamophobia as tensions boil over at campuses across the nation. The U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights announced yesterday it's launching investigations into 6 colleges and 1 school district over complaints of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. The department is looking at the Mays Unified School District in Kansas, Lafayette College in Pennsylvania, Cornell and Columbia Universities in New York, Wellesley College in Massachusetts, the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art in New York, and the University of Pennsylvania. 5 of the complaints allege anti-Semitism, 2 allege Islamophobia. Quote, "Hate has no place in our schools, period. When students are targeted because they are or perceived to be Jewish, Muslim, Arab, Sikh, or any other ethnicity or shared ancestry, schools must act to ensure safe and inclusive educational environments where everyone is free to learn," said U.S. Secretary of Education Michael Gardona. Israeli is considering a deal with Hamas for temporary Gaza ceasefire in exchange for the release of some hostages. This, the CBS News headline. Israel is considering a proposal that would see Hamas release a portion of the hostages the Palestinian militant group is holding in Gaza Strip in exchange for a 3 to 5 day ceasefire in the war. This, according to CBS News. Aid would be also permitted into Gaza during a cessation of hostilities. Under the proposed deal, Hamas would release an unknown number of women and children, according to 2 officials with knowledge of the negotiations. The children are being prioritized as a part of a first group for a potential hostage release aimed at ultimately bringing home the roughly 240 hostages taken during the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas militants. As a part of the proposal, an unspecified number of Palestinian women and children currently held in Israeli prisons could also be released, according to one of the officials speaking to CBS News. Domestically, in Trump world, a New York judge has overturned another New York judge's gag order. This from Fox News. A New York judge has lifted the gag order imposed on former President Donald Trump in his civil fraud trial, stemming from State Attorney General Letitia James's lawsuit against him and the Trump Organization. Citing concerns over free speech, appeals court judge David Friedman issued a stay on the order, happened yesterday, which was put in place by Judge Arthur Engoron in October. Engoron, who was overseeing the Trump trial, imposed the partial gag order to block all parties from making derogatory statements about his court staff. He fined Trump $5,000 for violating the order on social media October 20th and did so again on October 25th for another $10,000 before threatening imprisonment if further violations were committed. Elsewhere, a Georgia judge has sealed sensitive evidence from the public. This also being reported by Fox News. The judge overseeing the former President Donald Trump's election interference case in Georgia has issued a protective order that certain sensitive evidence in the case be withheld from the public. The order, issued Wednesday by Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, came after the video recordings of interviews with some Trump co-defendants were leaked to the media earlier this week. It specifies prosecutors can deem certain evidence turned over to the defense as sensitive material unfit for public release, and provides the defense can challenge such a designation within 14 days. District Attorney Fannie Willis had requested a broader version of the order, allowing the leaking of video interviews, citing potential harassment, witness intimidation, or jury pool tainting. The Supreme Court of the United States has acted against the state of Florida's anti-drag law. This from USA Today. The Supreme Court yesterday denied a request by Florida officials to let the state enforce a law that placed prohibitions on drag shows. The case deals with a law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis earlier this year aimed at restricting drag shows where children are present. An Orlando bar called Hamburger Mary's sued, asserting the prohibition violated the First Amendment. DeSantis, who is running for the GOP presidential nomination, signed a series of conservative bills aimed at LGBTQIA+ rights earlier this year. In a statement released at the time he signed the bill, the governor said the legislation made Florida, quote, a citadel of normalcy, unquote, as the rest of the world goes mad. In crime news, New York officials have made the largest ever seizure of fake merchandise. This from USA Today. 2 people have been arrested on raids on storage facilities in New York City that uncovered hordes of counterfeit goods and other luxury products with an estimated retail value of more than $1 billion. This according to federal authorities. Adama Sow, 38 years of age, and Abdoulaye Jallo, 48, were arrested Wednesday morning, each charged with trafficking in counterfeit goods, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. The two men are accused of running counterfeit goods trafficking operations since at least January. Quote, as alleged, the defendants used a Manhattan storage facility as a distribution center for massive amounts of knockoff designer goods. This according to U.S. Attorney Damian Williams in a statement on Wednesday. The seizures announced today consist of merchandise with over $1 billion in estimated retail value, the largest ever seizure of counterfeit goods in U.S. history. And we close the front page today with tragedy. Dex Carvey, the son of comedian Dana Carvey, has died at age 32. This from Fox News. Dex Carvey, the eldest son of Saturday Night Live alum Dana Carvey, has died at age 32. Carvey confirmed the news on his social media accounts, writing, quote, last night we suffered a terrible tragedy. Our beloved son Dex died of an accidental drug overdose. He was just 32 years old. The statement continued, Dex packed a lot into those 32 years. He was extremely talented in so many things, music, art, filmmaking, comedy, and pursued all of them passionately. It's not an exaggeration, says the statement, to say that Dex loved life. And when you were with him, you loved life too. He made everything fun, but most of all, he loved his family, his friends, and his girlfriend, Kaylee. Dex was a beautiful person. His handmade birthday cards are a treasure. We will miss him forever, unquote. And that is today's front page. I have 4 sons, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't worry about what might happen to them. I send my deepest condolences to the family of Dana Carvey as they recoil in horror and despair and grief over the loss of their son Dex. It's what gives parents gray hair. You know, you think as you raise them day at a time, you know, you worry about sickness or accident befalling them. And you think that once they arrive at the magic age of 18 and strike out on their own, that worry will dissipate somewhat. In my case, having 4 sons that are all stiff-necked thistleheads like their father, it only got worse. God bless Dana Carvey. And God bless the memory of Dex Carvey. Gone way, way too soon. The Wells Report right around the corner as we continue this broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us. It is Fishing Shirt Friday. Hope you got your fishing shirt on. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. Hi. Hope you're having a great day so far. Fishing Shirt Friday. You got your fishing shirt on? I certainly hope so. I want to thank you very much for joining the chat room today. Moving very, very sprightly today as we end this work week. I want to say good morning to Martha Brothers, who is here. Also, Ginny Bayless, Yvonne Field. Let's see who else is joining. Eddie Jones. Hey, man. How are you? And Eddie says Trump and Good Samaritans are becoming the public enemy now. Glad you brought that up, Eddie, because a Los Angeles homeowner defended his home and his family with a concealed carry permit firearm that he got exactly for that particular use. After successfully defending my home and my family, my 5-month-old child, California has now decided to suspend my Second Amendment right to a concealed carry permit. It was taken away just days after the residential neighborhood shootout. This, by the way, was talked about by Vince Ricci. He said in a video for the NRA, which was exclusively shared with Fox News. Ricci told Fox News that the sheriff's office called him Thursday morning yesterday to inform him his concealed carry permit was revoked. He said that it was due to him yelling at Los Angeles police officers when they visited his home to investigate the shooting 3 days after the incident. Ricci had previously railed that the LAPD, the department investigating the case, carried out sloppy police work, including allegedly not picking up the casings scattered near his home as evidence. The sheriff's office did not immediately respond to Fox News' request for comment on the matter. It's unclear if other factors played a role in the homeowner's losing his concealed carry permit. We've talked an awful lot about concealed carry permits in the United States and California's woeful administration of their concealed carry law. This is beyond the pale. This is absolutely ridiculous that we have this coming up, because it's hard enough to get a concealed carry permit in California, but to have it revoked after you use it in what is, according to all reports so far, a righteous defense of his home and his family is completely outrageous. So obtaining a concealed carry permit in California has historically been difficult compared to other states. Ricci used his firearm on his private property. California allows legal U.S. residents over the age of 18 to carry firearms on private property and residences without a permit or license. Ricci said in the NRA video that the shooting is a clear case of self-defense, noting he was confronted by two men pointing guns at my chest as they tried to make his way into his home. My situation is unique because it happened at my front door, all on camera. But this happens time and time again all over the country. People sweep it under the rug because it doesn't behoove their political agenda. The fact is, evil will always exist. In an interview with Fox News Digital, Ricci said that this wasn't the first time he'd been targeted by criminals. His home was broken into in June. His car was broken into months before that. He said a group of criminals were targeting other homes in his neighborhood. They were driving a Dodge Charger with no license plate and had broken into his neighbor's house the night prior to the shootout at his own residence. The LAPD previously provided Fox News with the department's press release on the attempted robbery, said detectives were investigating and calling on members to come forward with any tips in the case. There is no news at this particular moment whether or not this suspension or revocation of his concealed carry is going to be reversed at some time in the future. I cannot see, for example, why it wouldn't be. What's going on here? You know, people on the coast, for whatever reason, end up defending themselves, or they defend others and end up in legal trouble of one kind or another. This is the kind of leftist craziness, just my opinion, this is the kind of leftist craziness that has turned this country into a crime-ridden, festering landfill. And it's time for that to stop immediately. At least that's my idea. What's yours? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. By the way, on this day in history, November 17th, 1871, the National Rifle Association was founded by Civil War veterans, including former President, hang on just a moment here, General George Wingate, William Church, and a former President, Ulysses S. Grant. They were on the original leadership team of the NRA, all Union generals. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Welcome back. You know that thing where I intentionally forget to grab the wrong commercial set? That happened again. So let me go through some of the chats here while we wait to actually rejoin the show. It's Friday morning. It's been a long, arduous week. It's one of those things. Let's see. So Yvonne Field is here. By the way, no one is wearing fishing shirts today because it's just too cold. Ginny Bayless says that. And also Yvonne Field, not wearing my fishing shirt today. Well, I just thought about taking mine off, but then that would take the show to a completely different direction. And who wants that? I know I don't. Let's see. Talking about the New York governor is pushing for a clean slate agenda now. I'm trying to figure out what that is, Eddie. I'm going to look that up when I have a moment. Let's get back to the show. What do you say? Good morning. This is the Wells Report. We bring you the news. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We make commentary and we debate. Israeli-Hamas war continuing. it is very difficult to understand just exactly how far these countries have been pushed, and indeed, they have been pushed a very long way. I'm talking about those who have missing and kidnapped family members, kidnapped by Hamas during the October 7th attack, as they are marching from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem today. They are demanding the Israeli government guarantees hostages are returned safely. Now, the government of Israel can't make that guarantee. Will Hamas make that guarantee? I don't know. A large crowd walking along the highway toward Jerusalem, this according to Reuters, with some people holding signs of pictures of missing people, captioned, "Bring them home now." One of the participants in the rally march is Shelley Shem Tov, told CNN that Hamas abducted her son. She said the march had started 3 days ago in Tel Aviv, and the group was on its way to Jerusalem to demand the government bring back our families home safely and alive. This is the situation. We're 42 days from October 7th. We don't know what happened with our families. I don't know anything about my son, if he's okay. I know that he was kidnapped by Hamas, and from that day, I don't know anything about him. It's a nightmare. 42 days of nightmare. Shem Tov said that she had learned nothing about from the Israeli government since it told her that Hamas had kidnapped her son, and that is understandable, insofar as Hamas is not willing to discuss hostages, at least in public at this time. And so what she's working on at this particular moment is a whole lot of nothing. I'm sure the Israeli government would give them more information if they had it. But at this particular moment, not so much. As of 9 a.m. this morning, the march is in Sha'eva, that's Israel, according to a map posted by the Hostages and Missing Persons Family Forum. By the way, the Israeli Defense Force said today that the military official estimate of hostages being held in Gaza is 237. The IDF previously said that the numbers can fluctuate based on updated intelligence. A senior U.S. official familiar with the talks on CNN said Tuesday that Israel and Hamas are moving closer to a deal to secure the release of hostages taken during the Hamas attacks on Israel in exchange for a sustained days-long pause in the fighting. The official stressed that while the parties have inched closer to striking a deal, the talks remain volatile and could break down at any time, but it's closer, but it's not. It has not been done at this particular time. President Biden, for his part, has said that he believes a deal can be reached to release the hostages held by Hamas in Gaza, voicing optimism as officials tell CNN prolonged attacks to free the hostages are nearing an agreement. I've been talking with people involved every single day. I believe it's going to happen, but I don't want to get into details. In fact, during the APEC summit, there was discussion about these hostages, which was immediately shut down by Secretary of State Antony Blinken sitting in front of the president, who got the president's attention and shut him down on the explanation of these talks. The White House said that Biden had discussed at length efforts to free hostages with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a call earlier in the day. A senior U.S. official familiar with the talks told CNN Tuesday that Israel and Hamas are moving closer to a deal to secure the release of hostages taken during the Hamas attacks on Israel in exchange for a sustained days-long pause in the fighting. The official stressed that while the parties have inched closer to striking the deal, the talks remain volatile, could break down. It's closer but not done, said a European diplomat, expressing optimism, however, that the hostages could be released in the coming days or weeks. The broad parameters are currently being discussed, entail Hamas releasing a large group of hostages. At the same time, Israel frees Palestinian prisoners. The hostages for a prisoners exchange would take place in the course of a sustained, days-long pause in fighting that could last as long as 5 days, but many details, including the duration of the pause, remain in flux. Asked Tuesday for his message to families who are waiting for news on their captive loved ones, this from the APEC summit, President Biden said, "Hang in there, we're coming." National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs Roger Carstens met Monday evening in Washington, D.C. with family members of some of the U.S. hostages, according to a U.S. official. The family members were in town for a pro-Israel march on Tuesday. Israel has recently asked for 100 hostages to be released, this according to a Hamas spokesman and a source familiar with the investigations. Look, the case of this is Hamas is working against itself in the release of these hostages. They know full well that they have violated international law. These are war crimes. And all those people agitating against Israel and demanding that they follow the international rules of war forget the fact or leave out the fact that Palestinian is not a nation. Therefore, the international rules of war do not apply. And that non-application is something that, for whatever reason, propagandists, anti-Israel propagandists, reporting this story refuse to point out. These people do not have the sanction of international law behind them. First, they've committed war crimes in using civilians as shields for terrorist attacks. That is simply the case. That is the truth of the matter. Now, I wish that all these international sources, all these mainstream media sources here in the U.S. and around the world, I wish that they would spend as much time talking about Hamas releasing the hostages and the war crimes that Hamas has actually committed, instead of leaning on Israel for ceasefires and the like. Israel cannot stop. Hamas must be gone. It must be gone very much like Al-Qaeda has gone. Al-Qaeda was obliterated by U.S. and allied forces. That's what needs to happen here. U.S. and allied forces need to aid Israel in the eradication of this organization, and then send videos of the capture of Hamas terrorists and what happens to them in legal courts of real law as these renegade vandals face accountability for their actions. They need to show that to the entire world, and they need to put the entire world on notice, especially Iran and Hezbollah, that this is what happens when you try to kill Israelis or succeed in killing Israelis. This is the way this has to come down. There can't be anything else, in fact. This is where Israel has to take the gloves off, not just with Hamas, but indeed Hezbollah. And yes, Iran. Iran is backpedaling with their support of Hamas and many other things. They are simply backpedaling because they have to. They have to backpedal, and it is something that they just can't engage with Israel, which is good because a lot of us were very concerned that Israel might indeed, that Iran might indeed have nuclear weapons. And the thing about that is that we were concerned that Iran was emboldened to support Hamas in this attack because they had nuclear weapons, based on a lot of different things, up to and including this cockamamie Iran nuclear deal that was ill-advised at the beginning and is turning out to be something that is a check, if you will, written by the Obama administration and now the Biden administration that could indeed create serious problems for the entire world. But at least Iran says, no, we're not going to intervene in this war between you and Israel, perhaps cutting their losses, realizing that Hamas is absolutely off the scale bad on this particular circumstance. Israel's killed it. Hamas has killed itself. It's actually immolated itself with their own anti-Jewish hatred. And it is terrible, and it is awful, and it must be, they must be held accountable. And there's just no other way to make this happen. Every time Israel has gone against the Palestinian people, or Hamas, or the Palestinian Authority, every single time that there has been honest and genuine circumstances with regard to, okay, what are we going to do with all this? They back off. Israel backs off. And what happens after that? Well, we have seen it. What happens after that is that there is another attack, more brutal, more savage, more uncivilized than the one before. This is a report on all of this, courtesy of a news organization that has shared this video with us. Take a look.
Neil, it's very simple. Eventually, we need total surrender of Hamas. Like Nazi Germany, like Imperial Japan, we need to wipe them off the face of the earth. And until we do that, the war is not going to stop. We're also asking, where's the Red Cross? Where are the 239 people that were abducted from Israel, that are now kidnapped? Unfortunately, today, just not long ago, we found the body of one of the hostages. And we had to bring her home, not alive. And we're asking, where are the rest of the hostages?
Let me ask you, Minister, some people are beginning to wonder just how many of those 239 are alive. And that's why you might only be getting 50 now, if it even comes to pass. What do you think?
Well, Neil, you saw the atrocities. You saw how they burn people alive. You saw how they rape women and put a little baby in the oven and cook him. We saw all the atrocities, and they filmed it themselves. They were proud of it. This is totally crazy. They're monsters. Now, we don't know what they're doing with the hostages. They don't see them as hostages. They see them as something. I don't know what not as human beings. And this is so shameful. Now, the world has to ask very aggressive and hard questions. We want them all. We want them all back. And, we will do whatever it needs to bring our people back. But it is totally absurd, the situation. And we need the help of the world. We need the help of the United States. And this is a great opportunity to thank President Biden for his amazing support. We will never forget our friends. You folks have stood behind us at the toughest times Israel ever had since its existence. And we will never forget that.
That is an Israeli foreign minister, and he speaks very passionately, as you could see, about the fate of those hostages. And so when they talk about all this, when we talk about all the international and mainstream media pressure on Israel for the sake of essentially empowering or allowing Hamas to get away with murder, it begs the question, why are they not talking to these so-called innocent Palestinian civilians? I happen to believe that there aren't any innocent Palestinian civilians. The reason is because they choose to follow an ideology of terror, demonstrated time and time again by Hamas. That is the ruling faction in the Gaza Strip. The people that are trying to leave, God bless them. All those Palestinians trying to leave, they may be innocent Palestinian civilians. They may indeed be. But those that remain who cry passionately over the loss of their children because they decided to keep their family in a war zone, I have very little sympathy for them. I truly do. And Palestinians have played this game over and over and over to the detriment of Israel and the loss of life in Israel. It is unworthy. It is completely unworthy of any kind of sympathy by anyone. And I have absolutely no clue, except, of course, that what we're dealing with is just epic ignorance or willful ignorance on the part of people that are continuing to be pro-Hamas supporters. I can't think of any other reason that they would not back off. I don't have any idea. It just absolutely drives me nuts. Elsewhere, Israel's in a situation here where they are trying to do their absolute dead level best to show the Hamas use of civilian infrastructure, so-called civilian infrastructure, in the Gaza Strip as war fighting installations. Israeli Defense Forces released photos and video clips showing what it described as Hamas terror infrastructure inside the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City, including an operational tunnel shaft containing weapons and ammunition. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to show you this photograph here. It's not necessarily going to be as full fidelity as you might like, or certainly I might like. But take a look at this. If you can see, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger so you have some idea of what's being shown here. This is a situation where you can see. I outsmarted myself there. Let me see if I can do that. There we go. So you can see these are all tactical vests with magazines for AK-47s. You can see that this is water, which is essential. You can see these over here. If you can see my mouse moving, I don't know that you can, but those are RPGs. Those are AK-47s and other things. All these magazines, etc. What looks like plastic explosive over here, and many other things, including grenades, etc. All kinds of weaponry. This being found and laid out for reporters and anybody who doesn't believe that this is actually Hamas terror infrastructure, that's being laid out near the Al-Shifa hospital. Like I said, This is a circumstance whereby these people have chosen their course of action. They have chosen to support Hamas with their votes and with their presence and their work. If you are someone in the Gaza Strip and you just happen to be watching this broadcast, you need to turn in Hamas officials, Hamas terrorists, to the nearest IDF as soon as humanly possible. You don't have to do it yourself. All you got to do is just show up and say, hey, they're over there. It's happened before. And that would, by the way, prove the bona fides for Palestinian citizens. Palestinians have to choose between Hamas and no future, or they have to choose between Hamas and their own future. That's what they have to do. And I hope they choose the latter.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
The Wells Report in progress for Friday, the 17th of November. A woman who was being held as a hostage in Gaza has given birth to a baby while in her captivity. This according to the Israeli Prime Minister's office. The revelation came in a letter from the wife of Israel's Prime Minister, Sarah Netanyahu, to First Lady Jill Biden, seeking her help in calling for the immediate release of children and all other hostages held in Gaza. There are 32 children among the more than 240 hostages taken to Gaza after the October 7th Hamas attack. Sarah Netanyahu said in the letter, which was publicized by the Prime Minister's office yesterday, quote, "I'm writing to you not only as Prime Minister Netanyahu," she calls him Bibi, not only as Bibi's wife, but first and foremost as a mother, she writes, singling out children in Israel who were brutally torn from their parents and their homes. Sarah Netanyahu said the children are surely suffering from untold trauma, not from just being kidnapped, but for some witnessing the murder of their parents and their siblings. One of the kidnapped women was pregnant, she wrote in the letter. She gave birth to her baby in Hamas captivity. You can only imagine, as I do, what must be going through that young mother's mind as she's being held with her newborn by these murderers. Hamas also abducted a 10-month-old who became kidnapped even before he learned how to walk and talk, said Sarah Netanyahu. We must speak out on behalf of the children, she concludes. We must call for the immediate release of them and all those being held. We must demand the Red Cross visit them immediately. They have yet to do so. And that is something that we have to discuss. Where is the Red Cross? Where's the Red Cross in all of this? I mean, where's the women's movement? Where are all these leftist groups that have been so vaunted in their pursuit of their own particular goals, that are now looking like hypocrites because, well, the goals that we pursue are for everyone except Jews? Is that really the case? That's one of the things that has broken my heart the most about all this, is the anti-Jewish sentiment that has bubbled to the surface like ugly crude oil in a lake that has just permeated a lot of the news coverage. Now, I'm sure that because we have such great information exchange, unfortunately, a lot of it's propaganda, but we have such great information exchange that we see all these things and we think they are bigger than they actually are. But all I can say is that this work to try to get Israel to leave itself vulnerable to future attacks by Hamas and other Iran-based terrorist groups is insanity. They need to flip the script. They need to start talking to Hamas directly. They need to start talking to Hamas, and they need to start talking to the Palestinian people. As I said at the end of the other segment, the one we just finished, Palestine has to choose between Hamas and their future. There is no future for the Palestinian people with Hamas as their leadership. Palestinians have turned themselves into an entire population of terrorists, either by actual effort or at least by perception. Palestinians can certainly gather together and decide, is this really the way we want history to remember us? And they have to start getting rid of the animals within their population. The easiest way to do that is to start with Hamas. And why isn't the international community saying that? It's not hard. The only thing that I can say is the reason that the international community is not saying that, and the reason that the mainstream media is not saying that, is because they are all a collection of savage anti-Israeli bigots. They're anti-Jewish bigots. And that will not stand. It should not stand. The vast majority of Americans refuse to let it stand, as witness the 300,000 people that showed up on the Washington Mall in support of Israel. Israel is not and cannot go anywhere. The Jews have no defense except themselves and their allies. I thank God that I live in a country that is still, regarding the politics, regarding the ugly pollution of anti-Jewish bigotry that I see from coast to coast in this nation, and especially in our academy and universities. I am heartened by the fact that I live in a country that still supports Israel and the Jews. They get to have a place to call their own. Now, Palestine does too. They absolutely do. But look at what they've done with the land they already possess. If they wanted a nation of their own, the Gaza Strip and even the West Bank would be a far better place to live than it is right now. It is a garbage dump of anti-Jewish hatred. That's where those enclaves are. It is so bad that other Arab countries, notably Jordan, notably Egypt, refuse to take Palestinian refugees. And the idea that this administration would import all these terrorists into our houses, into our neighborhoods, into our country is just simple insanity. That's the way I see it. How about you? Eddie Jones has asked a question. How is it that Hamas was able to dig these tunnels in the first place? Well, that's because Israel listened to the world community telling them to leave Hamas alone in the Gaza Strip. They still refer to the West Bank as the occupied West Bank because Israel is there keeping the lid on all of this anti-Jewish bigotry and savage murder. They don't want to say the occupied Gaza Strip, do they? Even President Biden doesn't want Israel to do that. That's hour number one of the Wells Report. We've got another hour coming up in just a couple of seconds as this conflict seems to be widening and finding purchase here in the United States. We'll cover that in just a moment.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. Today is the 17th day of November, year of our Lord 2023. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We do our absolute dead level best to de-propagandize the mainstream media, and that is a tough job. We make commentary. That is not news. Commentary is opinion, both yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I want to thank you very much for joining us today as we bring you the very latest in this amazing war between Hamas and indeed Israel. Hamas and Israel are going at it, and that conflict has spread to these United States. And they've done so in the worst possible way with our youth. And they've done that because of the academy, America's colleges and universities, that seem to be chock full of anti-Jewish bigots that teach our kids anti-Jewish bigotry. And they have crossed the line, and that comes in a report from the New York Post this morning. Pro-Palestinian group shares reprehensible anti-Semitic map of New York City targets on social media. This is a U.S. group doing business in these United States. Now, I got to point this out. This particular news article that we're dealing with in the New York Post is biased. The language in it is somewhat hyperbolic. And so we point that bias out because you need to keep that in mind as you hear what they have written here. A pro-Palestinian activist group shared a frightening map of New York City newsrooms, businesses, and landmark buildings, and has called for direct action to globalize Intifada, which is jihad. In addition to news buildings, the group called Within Our Lifetime, which describes itself as a Palestinian-led community organization, is calling for their followers to target the offices of technology companies. Quote, each of the locations on this map reflects the location of an office of an enemy of both the Palestinian people and colonized people all over the world. Today and beyond, these locations will be sites for popular mobilization in the defense of Israel. Hang on just a minute here. My phone is ringing. Don't you just love telemarketers? Aren't they wonderful? Anyway, today and beyond, these locations will be sites for popular mobilization in defense of our people. And the New York Post calls it the sickening Wednesday night post read. May this map serve as a call for every struggle to act in their own interest. As we do so, we uplift one another's struggles and free Palestine from the river to the sea, it continued, repeating the Palestinian Liberation Organization mantra that was adopted by Hamas, that, according to this article in the New York Post, calls for the eradication of Israel. It can mean very little else. But once again, we try to depropagandize the news. By the way, this controversial post has been deleted. As Mayor Eric Adams has said repeatedly, hate has no place in our city. This from the New York City City Hall. A spokesperson said, we are continually monitoring multiple channels to identify any potential threats to New York City. The NYPD is aware of a social media post urging direct action towards several institutions in the city and is deploying resources to protect public safety at those locations. But to be clear, threatening businesses and organizations and referring to them as the enemy is exactly the kind of hateful rhetoric that seeks to divide New Yorkers. But it will not work because we are better than that, unquote. The group boasts 121,000 followers on Instagram. It did not specify why the location should be targeted or what kind of action should be taken. But New York lawmakers have denounced the map, insisting that violence is implied. Intifada is Arabic for rebellion or uprising, and they want to take it worldwide. Now, there is a map of this, and but it's virtually useless insofar as what we have is all of the locations have been blotted out, and it's one of those things that as you look at it, you go, really? Let me show you this picture very, very quickly here. As you can see, this is let me try this zoom again. Let me hope for the best on this. But you can see it is a map with various red targets being shown in New York City. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 targets for direct action. This is, once again, something that cannot stand. We're not going to have that. We're not going to have this fight in our country. We are simply not going to have this fight. Excuse me. We're not going to have this fight in our country. And that is something that must indeed stop. And why we allow it in our country is, again, reprehensible. Now, let me say this. The January 6th incursion into the Capitol gave rise to facial recognition and wanted posters from one end of the country to the other. That's what needs to happen with this group within our lifetimes. Every single one of the people behind this particular call to action need to be arrested immediately. Should they be held in pretrial confinement? Say, for example, in solitary confinement, just like they did with some of the January 6th activists that descended on the Capitol on January 6th? The answer is no. It was outrageous when they did it with the January 6th people that never had a chance to even post bail. But the DOJ needs to attack this group just like they attacked the January 6th arrestees, numbering over 300. They need to chase these people down because what they're doing is calling for terrorist activity. There is no rationalization of what they've said. They have called for direct action. They have called for terrorist acts within these United States. And when you consider all of the American groups, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, all those groups run to earth based on statements made against leftist politicians from one end of the country to the other. This is a call for terror attacks on our nation's soil. It has to be treated like that. They have crossed the line. And if the DOJ does not pursue the people that are running within our lifetimes, that means we're going to get more of this, not less. They need to be chased down immediately. I want to see wanted posters. I want to see arrests for terrorism and aid to terrorist groups. And that if they don't do that, this fight is going to bleed into the United States. And there will be blood. And I don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. Nobody with any kind of sanity in their minds want to see that. So why in heaven's name is this not happening right this minute? We've seen what these people that call for intifada have done. It has been the basis of Palestinian terror for 50 years. To pick up that mantra, to pick up that mantle of terrorism in these United States, outright naming places to attack and calling for attacks, is against the flipping law. A lot of people worry about, the state of crime in the United States, and they should. But this isn't crime. This is outright terrorism. Why in heaven's name have we not seen these people immediately arrested? They certainly did that with the January 6th people. We saw wanted posters within days of the January 6th riot. They kept trying to call that an insurrection. Well, this is an insurrection. This is a genuine insurrection against the United States by a terror group that is calling for attacks on targets that they have published. How much more do you need? I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. So let's talk a little bit more about what this article says. There are people that are making conversation about this. One of them is U.S. Representative Richie Torres. He's a Democrat from New York. He comes from the Bronx. He warned on X yesterday that the messaging was an example of coded calls for violence against Jews that are proliferating on social media. This is not an example of coded calls. They're not even coded calls. They're flat out in the open. Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, also a Democrat, wrote, "It was dangerous and reprehensible. Quote, this clear incitement against a group of predominantly Jewish institutions based on the trope that they are enemies of colonized people all over the world is shocking." In a statement to the Post, Levine said, "I reject this hateful language, and I'm grateful that the NYPD is taking this threat seriously. When will the DOJ and the FBI take this threat seriously? Where's the Department of Homeland Security? That ridiculous bureaucratic behemoth that is charged with keeping this country safe. Where are they? What are they doing? Or is it just a cabal of deep state actors that disguise themselves as federal law enforcement? They're just deep state actors that are essentially working to the ruination of this nation. Where are they? Again, if they don't chase these people down with at least the vehemence that they chased down the January 6th attackers, then everything they've done with those January 6th attackers, everything that they have done will be absolutely rendered absurd, hypocritical. Palestinians have made their terrorist bed. And with this, some 16, 17 targets in New York City calling for direct action? Are you flipping kidding me? There can be no other course of action. We are not going to have these terror attacks in this nation like Israel has to suffer every few years. We're simply not going to do it. We won't have it. The DOJ needs to hear from you. The FBI needs to hear from you. We need to make sure that these people are immediately arrested and charged with terror activity in these United States and spend time in jail after a fair trial. And should any attacks occur between this date and the time that they are arrested, where people either are injured or lose their lives, that brings it to capital murder. And they should be dealt with in that manner forthwith. There are a lot of people like me that rail against leftist politics. And yeah, a lot of the things that we talk about can be set aside through rationalization or misdirection, gaslighting. And they have been. But this is plain. We cannot move any further. Now, while we're talking about that, let's talk a little bit about anti-Semitism on college campuses around the country. This from Fox News. Anti-Semitic rhetoric and attacks have increased at some of America's leading college institutions. Jews on college campuses have been left scratching their heads, asking how it's possible that progressives could present the veneer of tolerance and modern thinking, begging for safe spaces, triggered over nonsense, and then go out and celebrate Hamas's barbarity and embracing hate. That drives me absolutely nuts. These flowers would fall on the ground and cry when somebody mentioned the word Trump on their college campuses, but now are calling for the gassing of the Jews, huh? Well, that's the end of that. You guys don't need safe spaces. You need places where you can be incarcerated because you're terrorists. How about that? I've been saying this for many weeks at this point. If you stand with Hamas, you are Hamas. And if you are Hamas, you are a terrorist. And if you are a terrorist, you will go to jail. And by the way, if you want to make that part of your life, fine, we'll deport you to Palestine immediately. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
It's Friday. We're going to have a weekend. Get some rest. Enjoy yourself. Prepare for Thanksgiving if you'd like. It's going to, by the way, this is Black Friday. This is why I'm wearing this black fishing shirt. There are all kinds of deals out there. I'm going to go take advantage of a couple of them as we continue to move through our lives. As this is the unofficial first day of Christmas shopping. This is where Christmas decorations begin to go up in people's houses and so on. Although in my house, I've been forestalling that. Thankfully, I've had some help with my son, or from my son, Colton, who essentially says, there's no Christmas until after Thanksgiving. There's no Christmas until after Thanksgiving. I love that kid. I do. So we're talking a little bit about American progressives and how American progressives are turning themselves into enemies of America. And the progressive idea that Israel is a blight on the world along with the Jews who live there is something we have seen before in the human experience. It's hard for us to imagine now, but it was an idea shared by essentially all elite opinion makers and institutions in the early 20th century. What am I talking about? Eugenics. Anti-Semitism, Nazism are now a part of both the university's present and past. It was developed in the United States in the 1920s. The number one chief eugenicist, Mary Bear Sager, who was the inventor of Planned Parenthood. Adolf Hitler was a great admirer of American academics' work to advance eugenics. Eugenics, the study of how to arrange reproduction within a human population to increase the occurrence of characteristics regarded as desirable and to weed out what scientists viewed as undesirable. Scientists, in this case, you need to read the word monsters. Biologist Stephen Farber argued that academic articles published by eugenicists like Charles P. Davenport, who lectured at Harvard, the University of Chicago, Carnegie Institution, were intellectual underpinnings of the Nazis' racial social policies. According to the U.S. Holocaust Museum, eugenic theory provided the basis for the Nazis' clandestine program that killed disabled Germans, an estimated 250,000 of them before it was later turned against Jews, Roma, homosexuals, and other groups deemed inferior as a part of racial hygiene. This is being taught on our college campuses to this day. Dozens of religious and educational organizations are urging the University of California system to reject proposed ethnic studies admission requirements in the light of an influential faculty council's defense of the October 7th Hamas massacre. The ethnic studies faculty at the University of California have essentially taken off their masks and shown themselves to be completely sympathetic to anti-Zionist, pro-Hamas causes, said Tammy Rossman Benjamin, director of an initiative which tracks anti-Semitism at universities. The controversy is twofold, centering on the state's high school ethnic studies mandate and a separate proposal to make completion of an ethnic studies course as a requirement for admission to the University of California university system. The latter faces renewed opposition after one of the key groups advocating for the requirement penned a letter demanding that UC administrators stop referring to the Hamas attack on Israel as terrorism. These people are embedded in the American Academy, the University of California system. Millions of students. And now they're reaching into high schools. This is not education. This is indoctrination. It's racist. It is murderous. It is genocidal. And it is among us. There is a simple remedy. There's a simple remedy. Don't consider the University of California university system to send your kids to for what is euphemistically called an education. They're going to come back as monsters. No, you need to find other universities because these people need to starve on the bitter vine of their own hatred toward the Jews. How did we get here? How did this happen in these United States? The Wells Report in progress. Back with more coming up in just a couple of moments.
wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I'm John David Wells. Thanks for having us on. So we talked about the Hamas-Israeli war. There are other things that have happened, and some of them are kind of remarkable, actually. The first is this. As we turn to the 2024 election, there is someone in New York who is associated with the New York justice system, is a part of it, in fact, that can actually read a law book and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. He is a New York judge, and what he has done is he has lifted the gag order imposed on former President Donald Trump in his civil fraud trial stemming from State Attorney General Letitia James's lawsuit against him and the Trump Organization. Citing concerns over free speech, appeals court Judge David Friedman issued a stay on the order yesterday. That order was put in place by Judge Arthur Engoron in October. Engoron, who's overseeing the Trump trial, imposed the partial gag order to block all parties from making derogatory statements about his court staff. He fined Trump $5,000 for violating the order on social media October 20th, did so again October 25th, another $10,000, and then threatened jail time for the former president should he not stop. At yesterday's emergency hearing, Friedman questioned Engoron's authority to limit Trump's speech outside the courtroom and argued gag orders were used more in criminal trials where there is a fear of swaying a jury. The ruling also applies to Trump lawyers, who say they have no plans to inhibit the former president's First Amendment rights. Trump celebrated the ruling on a post in Truth Social, which he railed against Engoron. Quote, Judge Arthur Engoron has just been overturned by the New York State Appellate Division for the fourth time on the same case. His ridiculous and unconstitutional gag order, not allowing me to defend myself against him and his politically biased and out-of-control Trump-hating clerk, who is sinking him and his court to new levels of low, is a disgrace. I have to agree with President Trump, although I don't agree with the way he keeps baiting the bulldog. He needs to stop talking about the clerk. Trump-hating clerk, he didn't name her by name, but everybody knows who he's talking about. Trump went on to say they are defending the worst and least respected attorney general in the United States, Letitia James, who is a worldwide disgrace, as is her illegal witch hunt against me. The radical and unprecedented actions of Judge Engoron will keep businesses and jobs forever out of New York State. Trump reiterated that he did nothing wrong, and again accused James of having run a Get Trump platform when she was seeking election in the first place. There are other things that are going on, other judicial moves. The judge overseeing former President Donald Trump's election interfering case in Georgia has issued a protective order that certain sensitive evidence in the case be withheld from the public. The order, issued Wednesday by Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee, comes after the video recordings of interviews with some of Trump's co-defendants were leaked to the media earlier this week. It specifies prosecutors can deem certain evidence turned over to the defense as sensitive material, unfit for public release, and provides the defense can challenge such a designation within 14 days. There is a copy of this available to you on this Fox News report. You can go to the Fox News website and see it. District Attorney Fani Willis requested a broader version of the order following the leaking of the video interviews, citing potential harassment, witness intimidation, or jury pool tainting. Defense Attorney Jonathan Miller, who represents former Coffee County election supervisor Misty Hampton, admitted to leaking the video evidence. Keep in mind, this is not a lawyer associated with the Trump defense team. That included excerpts from prosecutor interviews with former Trump attorneys Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell, as well as pro-Trump lawyer Kenneth Cheeseborough and Atlanta bail bondsman Scott Hall. All four have pled guilty to charges in the case. They have agreed to cooperate with prosecutors as they pursue charges against the remaining 15 defendants. Trump was indicted by Willis in August, pled not guilty to all charges related to allegedly attempting to subvert the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia, including violation of Georgia's anti-racketeering law. That is a very thin premise, but it seems to be holding the day, at least at this particular moment. Now let's get to reality on that. This is, again, a pretty simple circumstance. This is a former president of the United States. The former president of the United States is someone who is not the typical defendant in any case being brought against him, let alone what has been deemed by a majority of the people of the United States through polling, which is based on total politics and nothing more. And so, as we come to this recitation of this particular story, the idea that there could be evidence that is in the public domain not being shared with the public in a case involving a former president simply does not hold water. It does not hold water. Everything that these prosecutors have put before this president needs to be made public. 74 million people voted for this guy in the last election. They are not going to tolerate games being played with evidentiary pieces of evidence in this case. There is nothing in this case that cannot be seen by the people. Nothing. Now, is there a point to be made where it may indeed, shall we say, taint the jury pool? Well, that depends on what happens during jury selection. What's going to happen when they move into a Georgia courtroom and start doing the voir dire process, which is where they question possible jurors in this case? Did you vote for President Trump? Yes. Goodbye. What else are they going to get? They're going to get people that either say, no, I did not vote for President Trump, even though they did. Or they're going to be in a position where they're going to get people that did not vote for Trump, would never vote for Trump, actually hate Trump, and put them on the jury? Seriously? If indeed Fulton County did go for Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, where is there going to be a non-tainted jury pool? Now, this lawyer who's working on behalf of other defendants in the case, did he violate the law? Maybe. Is he going to be in trouble with the bar of the state of Georgia? He sure is. He's going to have to explain himself. But this is epically unfair. It is epically unfair due to the nature of the defendant. It is as plain as simple thought. If indeed you're looking for a fair trial, wouldn't you want that trial to be fair? And then you have to keep in mind how all of these prosecutors, every single one of them, have leaked information to the press. But President Trump or members of, say, for example, his fellow defendants in Georgia, they can't do that? Really? Is that really the case here? The appeals courts in the United States are just going to have a field day with all of this. All of this is going to be disassembled. All those people who tiresomely bring up the fact there are 91 felony charges against the president. Oh! Well, you can bring charges against a ham sandwich, and that's exactly what they've been doing. Not that President Trump is a ham sandwich. I would say he's more like a Reuben, wouldn't you think? I mean, of the hierarchy of sandwiches. Maybe a New York sub. I don't know, not a Philly cheesesteak. What? You get my point, right? You see, you're innocent until proven guilty. And circumstances regarding an election where phone calls are made saying what gives, what's going on. This entire election came down to 11,000 some votes. And the President of the United States has a right to actually question the people involved in the election process. As we come to this conversation, the various news organizations, mostly local or state, have found nearly countless instances of voter fraud right out there in public. Finally, there are things that are coming to the fore on a lot of these elections in a lot of these swing states. Every single time that happens, it degrades the case against President Donald Trump, whether it's in federal court or whether it's in state court. All of these proceedings need to be televised so that the entire world, certainly the people of the United States, whether you're pro-Trump or against Trump, you need to see these proceedings, especially the federal ones. because there needs to be an opportunity for you to hear not just the merits of the case, if any, but you also have to understand just exactly how the laws are being manipulated to have some kind of a case against President Trump. For example, in the New York case, there's never been a case, ever, where there were no fraud victims. This fraud law has never been used against anybody else except President Donald Trump. If that's not selective prosecution, what is it? These things are going to blow up. They're going to blow up in the faces of the people who have perpetrated these things on a former president. That's just the way it is. At least that's the way I see it. Is it possible that President Trump may indeed find himself at the hands of a jury who says, yeah, you're guilty? Yeah, it's possible. But it's not going to stand an appeal. No, none of these cases will stand on appeal. But of course, the left-wing media will say, oh, he's been convicted. He's a convicted felon. Nah. But I don't think that's going to make much difference. I think the people of the United States that voted for President Trump have already made their minds up, 85% according to the latest polling. I don't think that any of this is going to dissuade them one way or another. There may be a small number. For example, 62 million people represent 85% of the voters who voted for President Trump last time. That's 62 million. That's about what it takes to elect a president to the United States, to the presidency of the United States. That's about what it takes. President Obama, famously in his re-election campaign, got 63 million votes, or thereabouts. And so, where does all this go? Is it possible the people of the United States might actually elect a supposed convicted felon? It's quite possible. And then what? Remember, the political left of this nation, ably assisted by members of the right, these never-Trump Republicans, so to speak, these people have thrown everything they possibly could at the president, at the former president. They've thrown everything they have. And nothing has landed. And I don't suspect that any of this is going to land either. And so for whatever that's worth, well, probably not much. Now, there has been some campaign stylings arrayed against the president, the former president, by the current president of the United States. Indeed, President Biden has released this campaign ad.
He's not a war hero. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
There was another one where it talked a little bit about how Donald Trump is somehow against union leadership or against unions and their workers. And that is complete misdirection, at least in my view of it. Simple case of that matter is as follows. President Donald Trump has spent more time working with union people directly in his businesses than President Biden has in his entire life. And the campaign ad that Joe Biden is talking about, or talks about how Donald Trump says that union leadership is nothing more than a dues machine collecting money from people, 5% here, 2% there, 3% there. And when you think about that, it's absolutely true. Union leadership doesn't necessarily represent the actual rank and file of their unions in many cases. Although I have to point out, because of fairness, the UAW advocated for their workers with the big three automakers, and indeed, they did indeed get some very good working situations for their membership. But a lot of times, union leadership becomes nothing more than a political action committee. Remember the AFL-CIO endorsements of Democrat candidates from what's going to be next election all the way back as far as you can remember? Why are unions playing politics? See, I don't have any problems with organizations doing that, but when it comes right down to using money, it seems to me that only individual Americans should be able to give to individual candidates. You don't have to have the AFL-CIO sending billions of dollars to candidates of the left. You just don't have to have that. Now, can they convince their rank and file to do so? Yeah, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Couple of sports stories as we finish up our broadcast today. My old stomping grounds, Las Vegas, Nevada, playing host to F1. That's Formula One. It is the premier racing series in these United States. And I have to be perfectly honest with you, I love the sport. I've been spending an awful lot of time following the sport for many years. And I have to say that that they are going to Las Vegas on what is a hybrid street and purpose-built purpose-built venue that goes right down the Las Vegas Strip, which is very, very cool. It's the fastest traffic that has ever been on the Las Vegas Strip ever. Now, it hasn't been without some trouble. There were tickets that were given back. The money for the tickets were given back to certain spectators because of sight angles, both with the drivers and with the spectators. And there was also something else that was a problem. When you take a street circuit, there are certain things that you have to take care of. For example, manhole covers. Yeah. Manhole covers, they sort of, sometimes they're above the level of the actual pavement, which is not really a problem for street cars. But F1 cars are within particles of inches from the pavement because they are so low. Well, they had one of these, and what they did was they sort of cut around the manhole cover and sort of sunk it into the pavement. And that was fine. Except, of course, when an F1 car hits it, like, for example, Carlos Sainz in a Ferrari. In the first practice session, he went over that. They sort of buried it down, and his wheel went into it, which caused the bottom of the car to bottom out and destroyed some of the equipment on the car. You can only use so many pieces of equipment on a Formula One car to keep the costs down, and that ruined what's called an energy-saving module. He'd already used 2 of them in the season. You only get 2 to use. He had to put in another one through no fault of his own, and that cost him 10 places on the grid because the F1 race stewards couldn't figure out that really you can't let the rules do your thinking for you. So they repaired that particular part of the track and all as well. And what is going on with the coverage is Formula One's Las Vegas Grand Prix was off to a brutal start Thursday night as the first practice session of the $500 million race was suspended. 9 minutes into the session, Carlos Sainz ran over a water valve cover and damaged his vehicle. He hit the concrete frame around the cover, according to the FBI, because his tires sank into the shaved off part of it. The governing body of the sport said it took more than 10 minutes to get all the cars off the track so it could inspect the entire circuit. At least for Sainz, he was ready to practice after the entire chassis on his F1 car was indeed replaced. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. That's always going to be a problem, et cetera, et cetera. But then that's what happens when you race on street circuits. You know, if you're going to race on a street circuit, and there are a lot of them around the series. For example, there's many famous races like the Monte Carlo Grand Prix, another gambling venue in the world. They race on a street circuit, but over the years they've solved all these problems. This is the first time they've ever raced in Las Vegas on this circuit. They famously had a Formula One race at Caesar's Palace years and years ago in the 70s, in fact. But this is a much better venue. I hope you watch the race because it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be held after dark, and the city that is the amazing entity that is Las Vegas will be putting on its best face. Playing in the DP World Tour Championship in Dubai, this is a golf tournament. Rory McIlroy hit a shot that landed on a woman's lap. The rest of the crowd had spread out to give McIlroy space to shoot his second shot, but the woman hadn't moved. She was sitting on the grass with the ball on her lap. The woman laughed as McIlroy approached and pretended to start lining up the shot that he was going to hit off the woman's lap. That was kind of a funny moment. A referee arrived on the scene. McIlroy said he could have a drop where the woman was sitting. McIlroy then told the woman, "Okay, you can get up," as he and his crowd laughed. The woman got up, joined the rest of the gallery. McIlroy landed on the green after his drop shot and would bogey the hole. He would finish the first round of the tournament 1 under par. It's three shots back of the leaders, Julian Guerrier, Matthew Pavon, and Nikolai Hojgaard. Okay, so a little bit of sports news for you here on the Wells Report as we finish up our work week and hope that you have a wonderful, and I mean wonderful, weekend. I'm going to have to jump out of here. I got a few things I've got to do. So all the stuff that you normally see, like, for example, the Spreaker podcast. By the way, did you know that I'm on Spreaker? You know, if you want to hear this show instead of watching it, you can do so. You can do so by going to Spreaker. So it's basically just like a podcast without the pictures. So there you go. So go over there and you'll find that it's easy to get to. Spreaker.com, Spreaker. And as always, make sure that you like this show. When you get the thumbs up things, the likes and so on, that really helps us out. Also, by the way, do us a favor and share our broadcast with all your friends on your social media. And then, of course, make sure that you join us on Monday when we will return on Thanksgiving week to bring the holiday season into focus as we are strongly into it after Halloween. The executive producer of this broadcast is the great Dirk Steele from Denver, Colorado. Jude Dankworth from Houston is our associate producer and our publicist. Find her at netmediaconsultants.com. I'm John David Wells. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Wells Report on Fishing Shirt Friday. Have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday. All righty. God bless all y'all. Thank you so much for watching the show. Hey, Brad, on Twitch. I don't know, but I'm going to check this out. I don't know what that is. I don't know. You know, these social media sites, they give us a hell of a gift. They absolutely do. They allow us to bring you this show. And this is no small thing here. We're sending a lot of data to these venues every single day, and they give it to us for free. So I don't know what Twitch is doing, and I know there's sensitivities to some of the things that we talk about and some of the things that you talk about on the chat room. So I'll have to double check that and see what's going on. I'll try to have an answer for you on Monday. Otherwise, God bless all y'all. Take good care. And as I said, I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.